All right, Saturday is apparently the new Thursday night football because that contest we just witnessed was a prime example of the genre. The Houston Texans emerged victorious over the Los Angeles Chargers in a game that, frankly, typified a certain brand of mid-season NFL drama. Let's break it down. The Texans' offense, for long stretches, was conspicuously absent. Their production essentially boiled down to two consecutive, explosive drives featuring deep 60-yard daggers for touchdowns. Outside of those bursts, there was very little sustained momentum. They even received a couple of defensive gifts, courtesy of Chargers miscues, and a C.J. Stroud interception, yet failed to fully capitalize, missing a field goal among other opportunities. The Chargers' late interception wasn't on Justin Herbert by any measure, a tough drop, and overall, this was a peculiar game to assess. You could approach it from two distinct angles right now. You could focus on the sloppiness, the litany of mistakes, and categorize it as a bad game. Alternatively, you could frame it as a contest the Chargers were positioned to win, failing only to execute in critical moments, suggesting that if they clean up those errors, they'll be fine moving forward. I'm going to attempt a nuanced take here. First, major credit is due to the Texans' defense. That unit is consistently elite. There's no statistical smoke and mirrors here. They are brutal, methodical, and make life miserable for every quarterback they face. It's a genuine tip of the cap situation. They are legit. Having said that, the Chargers' offensive setup, and Justin Herbert specifically, were in a position to outperform what we've seen from even Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen against this Texans defense. They had opportunities. The one interception could easily have been a touchdown. With a few breaks, they could have scored 24 points. Herbert had to use his legs extensively. He was actually the team's leading rusher with 6 carries for 37 yards, as the run support was virtually non-existent. His final line, 21 for 32, 236 yards, 7.4 yards per attempt, 1 touchdown, and the aforementioned interception that wasn't his fault. He was sacked 5 times and under constant duress all night. His passer rating is artificially deflated due to those circumstances. There were bright spots. The red zone play call for the touchdown to Quentin Johnston was beautiful. But considering the defensive juggernaut they faced, many of the Chargers' issues felt self-inflicted. Missed field goals, crucial drops, and defensive lapses at the worst possible times. And that's where it gets weird defensively for Los Angeles. They gave up 2 catastrophic plays that directly resulted in touchdowns. A 75-yard touchdown pass, and shortly after, a 43-yard touchdown pass. That's 14 points surrendered on essentially 3 plays spanning 2 drives. For the rest of the game, they forced punts, interceptions, and field goals. The Texans' play calling deserves credit for identifying and exploiting those specific vulnerabilities to seize those 14 points. C.J. Stroud delivered those strikes, though one was arguably a gift after a defensive tip. Even Kurt Warner noted he wasn't sure what Stroud was seeing on that particular throw. This is where my analysis grapples with the outcome. I entered this game specifically wanting to evaluate the Chargers' offense against this elite Texans defense. Even if they won based on their own defense dominating Stroud, that would have been less informative to me. I wanted to see how this offense, with all its weapons, could hold up under that intense pressure. There's always variability with a defense. Even elite units will give up a big play occasionally. You can't expect a shutout every week. But I wanted a clear read on the offense. And in that regard, despite the loss and the mistakes, I saw more positives from the Chargers' offense in this game than I did, for instance, from Josh Allen's Bills or Patrick Mahomes' Chiefs in their recent outings against top defenses. So, through a playoff lens, which is how I'm primarily viewing these late-season games, what's the story? From the Texans' perspective, their defense is unquestionably legitimate. A couple of players got banged up, but the core is ready to wreak havoc in January. Their offense, however, remains an enigma. There are flashes of brilliance, creative play calling, and efficient runs, but also moments of concerning shakiness. Those turnovers, especially the second interception while leading 14-3 and closing out the half, were catastrophic. With a dominant defense, you simply can't give the opponent life like that. The Chargers' defense gave up 2 huge plays, but otherwise stifled an inconsistent Texans offense, making it hard to draw sweeping conclusions about their own defensive prowess from this matchup. That's why my focus remained on their offense. And while it was clearly a struggle, as it always would be against Houston, they had their moments. Herbert made some spectacular throws, including one where he somehow stayed upright under immense pressure and used his legs effectively. The problem was, outside of the touchdown play, the play calling and execution from the supporting cast often fizzled. We didn't see the consistent, beautifully schemed opportunities that Stroud and Nico Collins connected on a few times. If the Texans' offense had been more consistent, this game could have been a blowout. That's the concerning part from a playoff perspective. What happens when the Chargers face a more complete, connected team on both sides of the ball? Is this game even close? Ultimately, I view the Chargers' failure as more self-inflicted than a simple inability to compete. As Kurt Warner aptly summarized post-game, the Texans controlled the contest from start to finish, and the Chargers made too many mistakes. That feels like a fair, succinct conclusion. So, I'm not going to overthink this or lean too heavily into a grand pronouncement. At this stage of the season, the margin of error for both of these teams, for different reasons, is razor thin. For the Texans, a couple of mistakes from Stroud swung the door wide open for a Chargers comeback, regardless of how well their defense played. For the Chargers, their own margin for error evaporated with missed field goals, failed connections, and an inability to fully capitalize on defensive turnovers. In the playoffs, both squads will need to play near-perfect football. The room for mistakes is virtually non-existent. Yet, crucially, the Chargers' offense did hold its own relatively well against an elite defense. Many of their failures were execution-based rather than a fundamental inability to move the ball. Justin Herbert, in my view, largely rose to the occasion despite being under siege. He took sacks, which was expected given his decimated offensive line, but several of those sacks were devastating, pushing them out of field goal range and creating impossible down-and-distance situations. Finding solutions to that pressure, whether via quicker reads, schematic adjustments, or sheer grit, will be paramount in the postseason, where every sack and every missed kick is magnified. This easily could have been a playoff game, and the Chargers lost a contest they could have won. Conversely, the Texans won a game they could have easily lost due to their own mistakes. That's what makes this game so messy and difficult to unpack definitively. At the end of the day, a win is a win, and a loss is a loss. A phrase I don't often use, but it fits here. The Texans won. The Chargers lost. Both teams must be significantly better to win in the playoffs. That's the bottom line. As for the playoff picture, it seems unlikely these two meet in the first round. The Texans appear locked into the 5 seed, while the Chargers and Bills will likely jockey for the 6 and 7 spots, setting up probable matchups with the Patriots or Jaguars. The Steelers seem destined to face the Texans. Of course, this can all change in an instant. Those are my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you make of the Chargers' loss, missing a chance at a long-shot division title, and seemingly solidifying a wild card berth? What did this game tell you about both teams' playoff viability? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single one. Whether you agree or disagree, let's get into some discussions, maybe even some friendly debates, but ultimately, let's just enjoy the conversation. Please consider subscribing. We're building an amazing community here, and I'd love for you to be part of it. I want to create something we all feel genuinely connected to and excited about. I think we're well on our way. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it truly helps with visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. I'll see you next time.